Millionaire wakes in tears. Discovers shocking secrets of poor orphan girl's hidden past. Ethan Caldwell blinked against the harsh, bright light. For a moment, he thought he was still dreaming, trapped in some twisted arcade of nightmares. But the smell of antiseptic, the cold sheets clinging to his skin, felt all too real. Panic surged. He was back in his mansion, the expansive halls echoing with a silence so thick it choked him. Once, he'd paraded through these rooms like a king. Now, he felt like a ghost. Tears streamed down his face. What had he done? When he looked down, he saw nothing but fine silk, worth thousands, draped over his fragile frame. But he felt nothing of the bravado that once swelled in his chest. Instead, there was a hollow pit gnawing at him, a weight of guilt he couldn't shake. Memories danced at the edges of his mind, fragmented and dark. A family? Friends? He couldn't quite grasp who they were they'd gone. Through the haze of despair, an unsettling presence lingered. Ethan tried to shake it off. He brushed his hands across the walls adorned with priceless art, the textures both familiar yet foreign. Then he heard it, a soft whimper, like the rustle of leaves. Lily. The name flickered in his mind. A story he'd brushed aside, rumored whispers of an orphan girl living among the mansion's hidden corners. She was nothing but a shadow, a tattered page lost in a grand book of wealth. But how could he forget? In his darkest moments, he'd glimpsed her in reflections from the marble floors, with eyes big and soulful that begged for something. What? Acceptance? A chance? Suddenly, the corners of his world felt alive. It was like walking into a powerful storm. His heart pounded, a mixture of dread and curiosity fluttered inside him. He yearned to know her story. He stood, shaky and unsteady, and the universe felt like it drew in a breath. Lily, he called, his voice echoing through the empty mansion. Silence answered, a cold, hollow echo that made his skin crawl. But he sensed her. Somewhere. He could feel it. The invisible threads connecting them were strong, tethered by secrets spiraling over broken dreams and his careless choices. It twisted and turned, wrapping tighter around both of them, echoing with the legacy he once took for granted. Could she be the key to his salvation? Just then, an unexpected sound ricocheted through the silence, a door creaking, a footstep hesitating. Ethan's heart raced. Was it her? Was she finally close enough to touch? Or was it the weight of the past that was about to crush him once more? In that fragile moment, the shadows seemed to shift. Faceless figures seemed to loom and laugh at him from the edges of memory, ready to pull him back into the void. Yet amidst the dread, Ethan felt a flicker of hope. What would he do next? Would he confront the darkness of his past? Would he dare to reach for the connection growing stronger with Lily, even as unseen forces conspired to drown him in regret once more? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at the red button down there to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any of the exclusive content coming up. And since you're there, drop that powerful like, that really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know each amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Ethan's heart raced, echoing in the hollow spaces of the mansion. A sense of urgency gripped him, but the relentless gnawing in his gut urged him to move forward. He stepped toward the sound, each tentative footfall heavy with both hope and dread. Lily, he called again, louder this time. His own voice felt foreign, bouncing off the walls like a desperate plea. The door creaked open wider, but the light spilling through was not the soft glow of reassurance he sought. Instead, it cast long shadows that curled around him like creeping vines. Ethan squinted, trying to make sense of the darkness. And then he saw her, a girl, small and frail, crouched in the corner. But not Lily. Who are you? He asked, a thrill of fear shooting through him. The girl looked up, eyes wide, pupils dilated with terror. Yet they were not the soulful eyes he remembered. These were wild and haunted, as though they had seen too much darkness. Help me, please, she whispered, her voice a fragile thread. They're coming for you. Ethan's breath caught. His mind recoiled. They? Who was coming? Before he could form another question, the door slammed open with a bang. A figure burst through, tall and menacing, framed by the harsh light. Ethan's heart dropped as recognition hit him like a punch. It was Victor, his former right-hand man, the one he had wronged so deeply before the coma. Ethan. There you are. Victor's smile was crooked, a mask of madness. I thought you'd never wake up. You've kept me waiting. You have something that belongs to me. Ethan stumbled back, disbelief washing over him. What are you talking about? The words tasted bitter. Victor stepped closer, eyes glinting with something sinister. You don't remember, do you? The girl? You took everything from me, and now I'm taking it back. Panic surged through Ethan's veins. Was he talking about Lily? But where was she? As he scanned the room, a sickening realization twisted in his gut. The girl cowered, pressing against the wall, trembling. You don't understand. She's not what you think. Victor barked, dismissing the girl with a wave of his hand like she was nothing. She's been living here, hiding among your riches, a parasite taking from you, just like everyone who's ever crossed your path. A mix of confusion and anger swirled in Ethan. That's not true. I've seen her. But before he could protest further, Victor lunged at him, and they collided against the wall. Ethan felt the cold surface bite into him. Suddenly, the girl screamed. No! Stop! And just like that, she lunged forward, hand trembling but resolute. There was something glinting, a small blade, catching the light, aimed right at Victor. Ethan's pulse thundered in his ears. He hadn't seen her move. Lily, don't, he shouted, reaching out. But it was too late. In one swift motion, the blade flashed through the air. Victor's eyes widened, and then everything went still. The room hummed with a strange energy. As Victor staggered, blood blossomed on his shirt. Ethan realized what it would mean if Victor fell. The terrible weight of his past, the unseen connections he had ignored, surged forward, demanding to be reckoned with. Lily, what have you done? But the girl only stared, her expression shifting from terror to something darker, almost triumphant. And in that moment, a wave of uncertainty washed over Ethan. Who was she really? What secrets had she carried all this time? The air crackled, tense and electric, as the reality of the moment shattered Ethan's world once more. What had he awakened? What lay hidden was in the girl he thought he knew. His breath caught. He was losing control, again. Ethan's breath caught, the reality of the moment swirling around him. He felt rage, confusion, and the urgency of something dark and powerful unfurling in the air. He could see Victor's shock, his eyes widening in disbelief. But beneath the surface, the tension crackled like a live wire, threatening to explode at any second. Lily, what have you done? He repeated, his voice trembling. But she didn't answer. Instead, she entered a trance-like state, fixated on Victor, who staggered back, blood soaking his shirt in a dark bloom. And then, she turned to Ethan, her eyes blazing with an intensity he had never seen before. You need to understand. It was always about him. The weight of her words crushed against him. Always about who? Victor's face twisted, caught between shock and anger. You're a fool, Ethan. She's been playing you this whole time. Before he could shout back, Lily stepped forward, the blade still glinting in her hand. You've been blind. Every time you ignored me, I've watched your choices drag you down. And you hurt others in the process. The air grew thick with accusation, slicing through the silence like her knife. Ethan's heart raced. What was she saying? Victor's expression shifted from anger to something darker, more sinister. What's this? You think she's your savior? She's not a girl, Ethan. She's a weapon. The word struck Ethan like a punch. What do you mean? A weapon for whom? Panic seeped into his chest like a poison. She was meant to bring you to your knees, Victor spat, blood dripping from his lips. You thought you spared her from your world of greed. But she's puppeteering you, Ethan. She was always meant to be a pawn in my game. A chill ran through Ethan. He turned to Lily, searching her eyes for the truth. Is that true? In the heartbeat that followed, everything shattered. "No!" she screamed, and with a sudden surge, she lunged at Victor again, the blade poised for another strike. But it didn't land. A sharp, blinding light enveloped the room. Ethan shielded his eyes, feeling the intensity against his skin. Then, in an instant, it vanished, leaving them in a suffocating darkness. The lights flickered back on, revealing not just the three of them but a vast crowd in the hallway, faces shadowed by the fear and uncertainty that clung to the air. What they saw sent collective gasps echoing through the room. The girl who had cowered in the corner wasn't just a poor orphan anymore. She rose higher, a commanding presence casting a long shadow over the others. Her features shifted, morphing subtly into someone who belonged to the elite circles Ethan had once walked among. "Lily," Victor rasped, the fear in his voice unmistakable. "What are you?" His words trailed off as realization washed over his face. Ethan felt the ground drop beneath him. No, this couldn't be happening. Who are you?" With a chilling smile, her voice dropped into a haunting whisper. "You've stumbled upon the truth, Ethan. I am far more than you ever imagined. You think you're awake? You were just part of the dream." The crowd shifted uneasily, murmurs spreading like wildfire. The bystanders exchanged looks of confusion and horror. That's when Ethan realized the girl had never been a victim. Instead, she was the orchestrator, the one pulling the strings all along. With fresh panic, he searched her eyes for answers. But in them, he found only a cold, crystalline resolve that broke him apart. His mind raced. How much had he misjudged? Victor lunged again, but this time it was too late. "You," he screamed, pointing at Lily. "You've tricked us both." "Don't you see?" she replied, her voice sharper than any blade. "I'm here to reclaim what's been lost, and you two are just pieces on my board." The walls trembled with energy, shadows flickering, sending the room into disarray. Ethan stood frozen, watching chaos in a spiraling dance around them. The last remnants of his comprehension fell away, and he could only ask himself, had he awakened at all, or had he merely stepped into an illusion crafted by a master deceiver? All he could do was cling to the hope that amid the storm, he would find a way to salvage whatever was left, or that he would finally know the price of truth. The air thickened as Ethan stood frozen, lost in Lily's piercing gaze. Victor attempted to steady himself, hand pressed to his side where crimson stained his clothing. Fear hummed like a thick fog, wrapping around them all. The crowd shifted uncomfortably, whispers rising until they melded into a cacophony of uncertainty. "What do you mean, you are more than I imagined?" Ethan's voice trembled, a knot of anxiety tightening in his throat. He needed clarity, but the shadows danced around him, obscuring the truth. "Lily," Victor groaned, struggling to stand upright, "you're playing a dangerous game. You think you control this, but it's only a matter of time before the truth comes crashing down." Lily's face hardened, her grip on the blade becoming tighter. "And what truth is that? That I'm just an orphan? A pawn?" She stepped closer, her small frame standing defiantly against Victor. "I'm not a ghost in your mansion. I'm your reckoning." Ethan felt dizzy, the walls of the mansion seeming to pulse around him. What did he mean? What truth? Panic rose in him, swirling like a storm. Then, an unexpected sound broke through, the grinding of metal, the sharp hiss of air escaping, coming from the shadows behind Victor. It was barely noticeable, like a whisper among the chaos. Before anyone could react, an explosion rocked the room. A blinding flash shattered the calm, jolting everyone into confusion. The crowd erupted, panic spreading like wildfire. "Down!" Ethan shouted as he instinctively grabbed Lily, pulling her behind him, shielding her from the chaos. The world around them erupted into a whirlwind of noise, debris raining down. The light flickered back to life, revealing a massive figure stepping through the smoke, tall, broad, and unmistakably familiar. Ethan's heart plummeted. It was Marcus, his estranged brother, the one he thought he'd lost to the shadows of their past. "Marcus?" Ethan breathed, disbelief coiling in his gut. Why was he here? "What are you doing?" Marcus's eyes burned with rage. "You thought you could bury the past? You were wrong." He stepped forward, the air thick with his presence. "Lily is only a pawn in this game, Ethan. But she knows more than you think. Victor, still reeling, attempted to rise again. Marcus, you don't know what you're doing. We had a deal. His voice, laced with desperation, echoed around the room. What deal? Ethan interrupted, anger spiking. Are you both in on this? Lily turned toward Marcus, disbelief flashing across her face. You're him. The brother, exactly, he sneered. The brother you've hidden from your entire life. The one you thought was gone. I'm here to reclaim what's rightfully mine. A thunderous silence fell over the crowd as the revelation sank in, rippling through the spectators. Gasps and murmurs filled the air, eyes wide with shock. Your life? After everything we've been through? Ethan pushed through the chaos, heart hammering in his chest. You're mad. This is madness. Ignoring him, Marcus fixed his gaze on Victor. You've played this game for too long. It's time to end it. As the tension spiraled, a crack formed in their fragile alliance. From the corner of his eye, Ethan saw Lily shift. There was something brewing behind her expression. Wait, she called, voice ringing clear amidst the chaos. You think it's just about power? It's bigger than that. You all keep talking about games and deals. Suddenly, the room stilled as a piercing scream shattered the air, a sound not from the chaos but from the shadows behind Marcus. His eyes widened in horror as a figure stepped forward. Mom? Ethan gasped, recognition washing over him in waves. But this wasn't the mother he remembered. There was a hardness in her features, a twist of betrayal etched deep into her face. I told you to leave this place alone, Ethan, she spat, her voice cold and steely. You were never meant to know. In that moment, chains fell from Ethan's understanding of reality. Everything spun around him. The faces he thought he could trust, the very foundation of his life, were shattering like glass. Mom, what are you saying? He managed to choke out. What did you do? As silence draped over the room, he saw the truth reflected in Lily's widening eyes. They were all tangled in a web far more complex than he had ever imagined. The alliances, the betrayals, it was all spinning around him, twisting into something he couldn't comprehend. And in that silence, he felt the floor beneath him shifting. A question hung heavy in the air. Who knew what, and who was really in control? Ethan's heart raced. As the pieces fell into place, the truth promised to be much darker than he could ever have prepared for. The air crackled with tension as Ethan stood amidst the chaos, confusion clouding his thoughts. Lily's gaze was unnerving, full of anger and determination. He was about to question her further when the weight of their mother's presence hit him like a punch. Mom, is that really you? He stammered, his voice barely a whisper. Yes, Ethan, she replied, her tone cold as ice. You should have left the past buried where it belongs. Victor, still clutching his side, shot Ethan a worried glance. Don't let her manipulate you. She's playing you like a fiddle. Enough. Lily snapped, cutting through the noise. You're all blinded by your own greed. I'm the one who has been left to pick up the pieces. But this doesn't have to end in violence. Then, just as Ethan began to comprehend the tangled web unraveling around him, an unexpected sound shattered the fragile calm, a loud, deafening crash from below. The mansion trembled, the lights flickered, and the walls groaned as if the very foundations were breaking apart. What was that? Someone in the crowd gasped, fear spreading like wildfire. Lily's expression twisted, a flicker of concern crossed her features for the briefest moment. We need to get out of here. Now. Panic rippled through the crowd, people shoving and losing their sense of order. Ethan felt the rush of adrenaline surge, but he kept his focus on Lily. What's happening? Each word felt weighty, filled with urgency. But before she could answer, the ceiling above them caved in with a thunderous roar. Dust and debris rained down, blinding everyone for precious moments. Ethan instinctively reached for Lily, yanking her close. We have to move, come on. Then, everything turned chaotic. The crowd surged, bodies scrambling. Voices echoed in panic, mingling with groans. In the middle of the frenzy, Ethan caught a glimpse of Marcus, eyes wild, the brother he thought he lost, his expression morphing from anger to sheer terror. In that frantic moment, Ethan felt something else, a tremor beneath the floor. It spread, an unsettling pulse that made him feel sick. "What is happening?" he yelled over the noise. And then it happened, an explosion, rooted deep in the foundation. The ground shook violently, tossing everyone like rag dolls. Ethan's heart raced as he struggled to stay standing, clinging to Lily. Suddenly, a figure erupted from the chaos, darting through the dust and confusion. "Mom," he shouted, desperately searching for her silhouette. But it wasn't her, it was Lily, her eyes ablaze with something not of this world. "Ethan," she shouted, her voice fierce above the chaos. "You need to know the truth before it's too late." "What truth?" he cried, but another explosion rocked the mansion, and he lost his footing. In that moment, she transformed before his eyes. Her frail frame shimmered, an ethereal glow enveloping her. She wasn't just Lily anymore. She became something stronger, more powerful. "I'm not just an orphan," she declared, her voice echoing like thunder. "I'm here to balance the scales." Confusion washed over Ethan. "What? Balance what?" Victor roared in frustration, lunging toward Lily, but she stepped aside, effortlessly dodging his grasp. "You don't control me anymore." The floor erupted beneath them with jagged cracks, a gaping hole tearing through the center of the room. The foundations of truth were crumbling as Ethan felt himself slipping. As if in slow motion, he turned to the chaos, and then a chilling revelation hit him. The true power of the mansion, the source of wealth and ties, was buried deep within its walls, and Lily was its key. He saw flashes of her past, her struggles, the hidden lives of others like her, families torn apart by greed, secrets hoarded like precious gems. Then she smiled, the edge of her lip curling. "Ethan, we have been trapped in this cycle for too long. You need to decide, are you with me or them?" Just as she spoke, the walls began to crack, and a deep, dark force surged upwards, swallowing the room in an ominous veil. "No, no, no!" Ethan screamed as the shadows swallowed them whole. In that final moment, he felt everything shift, the relationships, loyalties, even truths he thought were solid, all crumbling like dust around him. He had no idea who to trust now. Lily? Marcus? Even his mother? Nothing was clear anymore, and the darkness enveloped him, leaving only the echo of uncertainty behind. "Ethan," her voice called, drifting like a whisper in the void he was entering. "Choose wisely, or lose it all." As the world faded into the abyss, Ethan knew he had only just begun to unravel the monstrous legacy of lies that surrounded him. And he was terrified of what he would discover next. The darkness wrapped around Ethan as he tumbled into the abyss, his mind spinning with questions, dread pooling in his gut. "Choose wisely, or lose it all," Lily's voice echoed in his ears, haunting him as if she were the very shadow engulfing him. Just then, the floor beneath him started to tremble. The shaking sent adrenaline coursing through his veins. He couldn't see anything. Just darkness. Then, a blinding flash erupted, cutting through the gloom. The room coalesced before his eyes, and he found himself back at the mansion, surrounded by the crowd, their faces twisted in fear. The walls pulsed as if the house itself were alive, vibrantly alive with chaotic energy. Every figure was frozen, a mass of confusion, eyes wide. "Get back!" Ethan shouted, holding onto Lily's hand as the tremors intensified. "What's happening?" Before she could answer, an otherworldly shriek sliced through the air. Every head turned toward the sound, eyes darting around nervously. And then, without warning, the ground beneath Ethan's feet split open, a fissure widening ominously, revealing a dark void beneath. "Lily," he cried, trying to pull her back. But as he did, something unexpected emerged from the shadows. From the depths, a figure rose, covered in blackness, a grotesque silhouette with features shifting and twisting like smoke. The crowd gasped, a terrified murmur rolling through them. "Lily!" Ethan shouted again, but panic clawed at his throat. The figure broke free from the dark, revealing eyes that glowed with a malevolent light. As it stepped forward, the crowd recoiled, whispering fears and doubts. "You think you know the truth?" it spoke, voice a low growl that reverberated with chilling authority. Suddenly, Marcus, still holding his wound, turned stark white. "You shouldn't be here," he screamed, backing away, eyes wide with dread. "What? Who are you?" Ethan shouted, his heart racing. In that moment, the figure stepped fully into the light, and Ethan staggered back, shot crashing over him like a tidal wave. No, it can't be. It was his father. Alive. The man he'd long believed was gone for good, his face twisted with power, a manic glint in his eyes. "Surprised to see me, son?" he asked, voice dripping with dark amusement. "No." Ethan shook his head, disbelieving. "You died. I saw you. Did you? Or did I just play my part too well?" His father stepped closer, the air filling with an oppressive energy. The crowd shifted, fear palpable in the room. They murmured in confusion, glancing at one another as if trying to make sense of the impossible. "What trick is this?" Victor huffed, raising a hand defensively. "You were meant to be gone." "Gone, yes," the figure said, staring down Victor with disdain. "But not forgotten. And now, everything I built is rising again." Ethan's heart raced. Every feeling of safety faded. "What do you mean?" he demanded. "You made so many enemies. You hurt so many people." His father smirked, taking another step closer. "What I did was necessary. I was a puppet, Ethan, just like you. But now, the strings are cut, and I'm free." The crowd recoiled, their disbelief morphing into anger. One voice cried out, "You brought us all into this. You're a monster." "No, not a monster. A king." He spread his arms wide, the shadows around him swirling like a storm. Lily squeezed Ethan's hand, her fear mingling with determination. "Ethan, we need to fight. He's gone too far." But everything felt like it was tearing apart. The realization hit him hard. His father's return transformed everything. What he thought he knew shattered. Ties they had built, all relationships, dissolved into smoke. And then, with a roar, the dark figure lunged at Lily, and the world erupted into chaos once more. Ethan had to make a choice, protect her or confront the father who had returned from the dead. In that moment, his heart pounded wildly, with the weight of lineage and destiny crashing down on him. What lay ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear: nothing would ever be the same again. The darkness tightened around Ethan as he stood frozen, his heart hammering wildly in his chest. Lily's fierce grip on his hand was the only thing anchoring him. The world around him felt like it was collapsing, shifting, ripping apart at the seams. His father's presence loomed, a malevolent force, and he watched as the tension coiled tightly like a spring ready to snap. "Get away from her," he shouted, feeling the urge to protect Lily. But she stood resolutely beside him, defiance sparking in her eyes. "You think you can just return and reclaim everything?" Lily asked, her voice steady despite the chaos. "You're wrong." Victor let out a harsh laugh. "What a wonderful family reunion. Too bad it'll cost you your life." Ethan shook his head, trying to grasp the situation. Shadows swirled around his father, twisting and writhing with dark energy. Fear seeped into the crowd, whispers of disbelief and anxiety echoing through the space. Then it happened, a deafening roar erupted from below, shaking the very ground they stood on. Dust and debris rained from above as the floor splintered apart in multiple places. The crowd screamed, fear rippling outward like a wave. Ethan staggered back, pulling Lily with him. "We need to move. Now." But it was too late. The force surged, and the ground erupted, a massive fissure clenching open like a hungry mouth. The darkness gushed forth, pulling at everything, walls cracking, the air thick with panic. "Ethan!" Lily screamed, barely keeping her footing. As the ground split wider, Ethan locked eyes with his father. "You did this. You brought this on us." "Not me," his father retorted, panic flashing as he stumbled back. "You've awakened something deeper, Ethan. Something we're not ready to face." Ethan felt the ground shift beneath him, a violent tremor that knocked him to his knees. Then, in the chaos, something extraordinary happened. A blinding light exploded from the fissure. The brilliance pierced through the darkness, washing over everything. Ethan shielded his eyes, lost in the glare. And then came a voice, clear and commanding, cutting through the noise. "Enough!" It was a woman, their mother, standing strong at the edge of the void. But this was not the mother he remembered. She radiated power, her features sharp and luminous. I will not let you destroy what is left of this family. No one moved. Time seemed to freeze as her voice echoed, wrapping around Ethan's heart. Mom, he whispered, trembling. Is it really you? Your father and I have made terrible mistakes, she continued, chest heaving. But we cannot let this darkness consume us. There's more at stake than any of you can fathom. Then the unexpected tremor hit a breaking point. The fissure sputtered with an electric light that grew brighter, pulsing rhythmically. I tried to warn you, she cried, pleading, her voice rising above the chaos. What was buried is meant to stay buried. Our past, our bond, it's tied to this darkness. And at that moment, just as the light blazed, a figure emerged from the depths, the very essence of the darkness. A creature, vast and swirling, with faces that shifted and eyes full of despair. It wasn't just an entity, it was a collection of voices, memories brought to life, each cry bearing the weight of pain that had been brushed aside for generations. Ethan, it boomed, and the very air caved beneath its power. The crowd gasped in unison, eyes wide with fear and recognition. Ethan's breath quickened. What are you? I am what you've tried to forget. I am the legacy buried beneath your mansion, the grief your family has ignored. The creature's voice echoed with sorrow, a haunting reminder of pain and anguish woven into their very ancestry. Lily clutched Ethan's arm tighter, panic flickering in her eyes. Ethan, this changes everything. We can't let it take control. But it was too late. The truth unfolded before him, the weight of all the lies, all the secrets buried deep, even Lily's purpose. Suddenly, Ethan felt the ground slip beneath him, the chasm widening. Mom! This can't be happening. And as the darkness surged, enveloping everything in its path, he realized there were no heroes or villains, just a family gripped in the chains of their dark legacy, and all choices led to this moment. Everything he thought he understood unraveled, threatening to pull him into its depths. Mom, he cried, desperation clawing at his throat. But it was lost. Dawn. He had to choose, save himself, or face the truth of what lay buried. And in that moment, the light flickered ominously, leaving him hovering on the edge of everything he ever believed. The darkness tightened around Ethan as he stood frozen, his heart hammering wildly in his chest. Lily's fierce grip on his hand was the only thing anchoring him. The world around him felt like it was collapsing, shifting, ripping apart at the seams. His father's presence loomed, a malevolent force, and he watched as the tension coiled tightly like a spring ready to snap. Get away from her, he shouted, feeling the urge to protect Lily. But she stood resolutely beside him, defiance sparking in her eyes. You think you can just return and reclaim everything? Lily asked, her voice steady despite the chaos. You're wrong. Victor let out a harsh laugh. What a wonderful family reunion. Too bad it'll cost you your life. Ethan shook his head, trying to grasp the situation. Shadows swirled around his father, twisting and writhing with dark energy. Fear seeped into the crowd, whispers of disbelief and anxiety echoing through the space. Then it happened, a deafening roar erupted from below, shaking the very ground they stood on. Dust and debris rained from above as the floor splintered apart in multiple places. The crowd screamed, fear rippling outward like a wave. Ethan staggered back, pulling Lily with him. We need to move. Now. But it was too late. The force surged, and the ground erupted, a massive fissure clenching open like a hungry mouth. The darkness gushed forth, pulling at everything, walls cracking, the air thick with panic. Ethan! Lily screamed, barely keeping her footing. As the ground split wider, Ethan locked eyes with his father. You did this. You brought this on us. Not me, his father retorted, panic flashing as he stumbled back. You've awakened something deeper, Ethan. Something we're not ready to face. Ethan felt the ground shift beneath him, a violent tremor that knocked him to his knees. Then, in the chaos, something extraordinary happened. A blinding light exploded from the fissure. The brilliance pierced through the darkness, washing over everything. Ethan shielded his eyes, lost in the glare. And then came a voice, clear and commanding, cutting through the noise. Enough! It was a woman, their mother, standing strong at the edge of the void. But this was not the mother he remembered. She radiated power, her features sharp and luminous. I will not let you destroy what is left of this family. No one moved. Time seemed to freeze as her voice echoed, wrapping around Ethan's heart. Mom, he whispered, trembling. Is it really you? Your father and I have made terrible mistakes, she continued, chest heaving. But we cannot let this darkness consume us. There's more at stake than any of you can fathom. Then the unexpected tremor hit a breaking point. The fissure sputtered with an electric light that grew brighter, pulsing rhythmically. I tried to warn you, she cried, pleading, her voice rising above the chaos. What was buried is meant to stay buried. Our past, our bond, it's tied to this darkness. And at that moment, just as the light blazed, a figure emerged from the depths, the very essence of the darkness. A creature, vast and swirling, with faces that shifted and eyes full of despair. It wasn't just an entity, it was a collection of voices, memories brought to life, each cry bearing the weight of pain that had been brushed aside for generations. Ethan, it boomed, and the very air caved beneath its power. The crowd gasped in unison, eyes wide with fear and recognition. Ethan's breath quickened. What are you? I am what you've tried to forget. I am the legacy buried beneath your mansion, the grief your family has ignored. The creature's voice echoed with sorrow, a haunting reminder of pain and anguish woven into their very ancestry. Lily clutched Ethan's arm tighter, panic flickering in her eyes. Ethan, this changes everything. We can't let it take control. But it was too late. The truth unfolded before him, the weight of all the lies, all the secrets buried deep, even Lily's purpose. Suddenly, Ethan felt the ground slip beneath him, the chasm widening. Mom! This can't be happening. And as the darkness surged, enveloping everything in its path, he realized there were no heroes or villains, just a family gripped in the chains of their dark legacy, and all choices led to this moment. Everything he thought he understood unraveled, threatening to pull him into its depths. Mom, he cried, desperation clawing at his throat. But it was lost. Dawn. He had to choose, save himself, or face the truth of what lay buried. And in that moment, the light flickered ominously, leaving him hovering on the edge of everything he ever believed. And then it shifted, something sharp and quick pierced the fabric of reality itself. A bright rift tore open amidst the darkness, revealing a swirling vortex that shimmered with colors he had never seen. As it expanded, a profound scream rang out, echoing in Ethan's mind, drawing forth memories he wished to forget. Ethan, a voice called, one that turned his insides to ice. It was his father, but it wasn't the same man he feared moments ago. This voice was tender, filled with a warmth he had almost forgotten. Remember, the voice urged, pulling him into a rush of memories, buried deep in his heart. Visions danced before him, laughter in a sunlit garden, moments of familial joy, whispers of love that broke through the dark. And suddenly, Ethan realized the truth. His father hadn't just returned, he was offering him a choice, a chance to see the past as it truly was. But with it came a heavy burden. The legacy of darkness twisted and intertwined with those memories. You've always been the key, his father continued, the warmth turning sharp. But the balance has shifted. You need to decide who you really are. Confusion surged through him. What do you mean? That darkness? It feeds off your fear, your anger, and your love. You can either succumb to it or embrace your true lineage. Before Ethan could respond, the light from the rift pulsed violently, a flash of blinding brilliance erupting in the room. The shadows shrieked as if in agony, retreating from the light. But within that light, he saw glimpses of faces, each one familiar, and each one a haunting reminder of choices made long ago. And then came the shocking truths that made the ground quake beneath him one last time. Lily, he breathed, pain crashing over him like a wave. If I am to embrace this truth, then you're part of it, too. Her eyes widened, horror replacing the fire that had once burned there. Ethan, no. You can't. You don't understand. But the vortex grew larger, demanding his attention. In that moment, he felt a truth struggling to emerge, a bond straining against everything he had ever known. Choose wisely, the darkness coiled around him, a jagged whisper that fractured the silence. Or lose it all. And just like that, the room spun wildly, leaving him teetering on the edge of revelation. The past had come to claim them all, and the choice was truly his to make. The light from the rift pulsed, and Ethan felt every muscle in his body tense. Choose wisely, or lose it all. The creature's gaze bore into him, a reflection of his fears and regrets. Ethan wanted to turn and grab Lily, to pull her close and shield her from whatever was coming next. But the light enveloped them, illuminating shattered pieces of a life he thought he understood. Ethan, his father's voice boomed, a mix of authority and something softer underneath. You have the power to break this cycle. But before he could speak, something stirred from within the pit, a rush, a force, but this was unlike anything they had encountered. The shadows flickered as though caught in a tempest. Ethan staggered back, gripping Lily's arm. Look out, he shouted, just as the ground beneath them cracked wider. An explosion sent tremors rippling through the mansion, and chaos erupted. People screamed, scrambling to escape the impending doom. Lily's grip tightened. We can't stay here. But something in Ethan's chest held him back, a dangerous curiosity. As the darkness surged, he caught sight of the creature transforming. Its form twisted, writhing as if shedding a skin. Out poured a flood of memories, faces, voices, too many to comprehend. And then, a figure broke free from the shadows, stepping into the light. As if time slowed, horror washed over Ethan. A woman, tall and regal, emerged. It was Hannah, the family's old housekeeper, a familiar face, yet her presence crackled with a terrifying energy. Mother? Ethan gasped, his heart dropping. No, it can't be. But there she stood, not the loving caretaker he remembered. You took everything from me, she screamed, the anguish of grief rattling through her words. What are you talking about? He felt the walls closing in. That's not true. She stepped closer, her eyes ablaze with fire. You need to understand. I was protecting you. Protecting the legacy. Legacy? Lily whispered, both fear and intrigue clouding her voice. The very air thickened as Hannah continued, yes. You don't know the real history of this family. We were never just the wealthy, we were the keepers of a dark secret. One that you awoke. Ethan's heart raced. What are you hiding? Hannah jerked her head toward the rift. It was never about the money. It was about power. The power that resides in this very place. Then came a chilling revelation, a sharp gasp erupted from the crowd. Victor, his face twisted in disbelief, stepped back, losing color. This can't be. But before he could finish, the ground trembled violently once more. The rents widened, darkness seeking to claim them all. Mom, Ethan cried out, desperation clawing at him. You're telling me I'm part of this? We all are? Your lineage is cursed, she shouted over the chaos. But there's a way to break free. You must let go of your love, of your attachments. Only then can you harness the true power. Suddenly, the creature wailed, its voice a haunting choir of countless tormented souls. You think this ends with you? The darkness will not rest until it consumes everything. Hannah's expression hardened, shifting into something ethereal. Stop it, she roared, older than time, yet glowing with fierce strength. Does anyone have a plan? Lily shouted, panic rising. And then came the most shocking twist. Ethan, you are the chosen one. Hannah's words cut through him like a knife. You were destined to awaken this darkness. You have the power to control it. He felt the blood drain from his face. No, I don't want it. I want to save everyone. But as those words left his lips, a bolt of energy coursed through him, igniting his very essence. The air was thick with tension, and just like that, he stood at a precipice, the choice laid bare before him. And in that swirling chaos, as Ethan looked down into the dark chasm, realization struck. The trap was tightening. Choose wisely, or lose it all. The ground shifted again. And this time, it wasn't just a mansion that would hold its breath, but possibly the world outside. A final moment hung in the air, fragile as glass. What lay beneath was more than a secret, but a legacy poised to erupt. And then it all went dark. The light flickered and danced, casting eerie shadows around them. Ethan felt his heart race, a whirlwind of emotions pulling him in every direction. "Mom," he shouted, desperation tightening around his throat. "Ethan, listen to me." Hannah's face was fierce yet sorrowful. "You must confront the darkness, but you don't have to face it alone. Your father and we've made choices that created this chaos." The swirling void beneath them grew, an insatiable mouth hungry for their fear. "Stop all this," Lily yelled. "You've tried to control everything for too long." With every heartbeat, the pressure intensified. The creature's voice, a cacophony of wails, surged around them. "You cannot escape your fate. The shadows will consume everything. Lily, take my hand," Ethan cried, pulling her close. Their fingers interlocked, a lifeline in the storm. "We're stronger together." His father's eyes flashed with a strange mix of hope and fear. "You don't understand, Ethan. The darkness feeds on division. It seeks to tear you apart." Ethan looked deep into Lily's eyes, seeing the fire of defiance mirrored there. "I won't let fear control us," he shouted. And at that moment, a crack of power surged between them, a pulse igniting the air. The light from the rift climbed, bright and fierce, enveloping them in warmth. "Together," Hannah declared, stepping forward and joining their hands. "Let it flow through you. Face it." Ethan felt a rush, a warmth blossomed in his chest as memories flooded back. Laughter echoed, joy swept through him. "We're more than our past." As they stood united, faces growing clearer, the darkness writhed and recoiled. Vicious screams erupted, and the shadows thickened, furious against the blinding light of truth and love. "Lily, we can do this," Ethan urged, confidence igniting within him. "Release your worries." The cloud of darkness shrieked, twisting violently around them. "You dare challenge me," it bellowed, panic lacing its voice. Suddenly, the rift erupted with blinding brightness. A wave of energy shot forth, crashing over the darkness like a cleansing tide. Ethan felt the pull, a connection to every moment they had shared, the laughter, the bonds, love cutting through the chaos. And then, just like that, the shadows shrank back, the cries fading into nothingness. The storm calmed. The ground beneath them stabilized, sending tremors through the mansion, and soon everything settled, hushed breaths surrounded them. The darkness was gone. As the dust cleared, Ethan looked around and noticed the shocked faces of the crowd, each holding their breath. "It's over," he muttered in disbelief. "Not quite," came a familiar voice. Ethan turned to see Victor, spilling blood but grinning with madness. "You think you can just end this? It goes deeper than you can imagine." Ethan felt fury rise. "This ends here." His voice rang loud, resolute. "You've caused enough pain." In that moment, distracted, Victor stumbled, and Ethan felt a flicker of hope ignite. They had done it. The darkness was defeated. But this wasn't a fairy tale. Was Victor truly finished? Lily stepped beside him, her hand warm and steady. "Together, Ethan. Always." And just like that, a new dawn began. Hope flickered like embers in the distance. But beneath that hope was a secret. What lay beneath the surface? What other truths would emerge? The mansion stood solemnly, a testament to their trials. But together, they would face whatever came next. And just like that, the room felt heavier, the echoes of yesterday filling every corner. "Hey, before you go, I need you to do something huge. You need to subscribe now if you want to catch our next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed this algorithm. Every click counts. Flood the comments below with your reactions and theories. Trust me, I want to hear what you think about this insane ending. And don't wait one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support for the channel, so let's keep this story going.